What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Talkin' Track. I'm Ryan Stillman, and with me, as always, is my incredible co-host, Aaron Halterman of RacingDudes.com. Aaron, good to have you back, man.
What's up, man? Yeah, great weekend ahead for us. We thought we'd be a really great weekend last weekend. It was just okay, I would call it, but I don't think it'll be like that this week. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun. We've got a lot of things planned for you guys. I'm excited for this show, Ryan.
I'm super pumped. As you can see, I'm in a new location. I'm at Aaron's house. I'm recording from Missouri, and we're just pumped to be around each other to cover this next 2 weeks of racing. This is the most exciting time on the Triple Crown Trail, and we have an action-packed show for you guys covering it. So we're just going to jump right in because there is so much to get to on this episode. I'm really pumped. It's time for a game we like to call Bet or Pass. Last week, we saw two Kentucky Derby preps, the Louisiana Derby and the Jeff Ruby Stakes. When the dust settled, we had a bunch of interesting horses that people are talking about. So I asked Aaron if he would bet or pass on some of the names that I'm hearing the most of for the Derby. So let's see what he thinks about them as we go through it. Aaron, Tiz-tastic, a pass for you for the Kentucky Derby. Tell me why.
Yeah, unfortunately, Tiz-tastic is going to be a pass for me. He's trained by Steve Asmussen, who is my favorite trainer in the game and kind of got me into horse racing, honestly. The first day I ever went to a track, Steve Asmussen won like 5 races, including the Arkansas Derby back in 2007. So I do love Steve Asmussen, but Tiz-tastic specifically for Asmussen, he'll be a pass for me in this one. Look, he's a good horse. He's an improving horse. He got better going longer in the Louisiana Derby. That's all good things. I still think he's just a tad of a cut below, let's call it, versus everybody, or even not everybody, but the top horses in the crop. I just don't think he's quite there yet. I also think he's going to get overbet as far as hitting the board in the Kentucky Derby. He kind of has that look of a horse that comes from out of it and can hit the board at a big price. I think there might be better options there as well that won't be bet quite as heavy. So I'm rooting for Steve Asmussen. I'd love to see him win the Kentucky Derby, but my wallet, I don't think would love to see it. He's a pass for me, even underneath in like a try or super, still kind of a pass for me at this point.
I totally get it. Doesn't he feel to you like the wise guy kind of horse people are going to go crazy about come Derby time, yeah. Tiz-tastic?
I think yes, for a couple of reasons. Number one, he did win, like I was saying, at that longer distance. So the Louisiana Derby is 1 mile and 3/16. Okay, it's the longest Kentucky Derby prep race, other than the race over in Dubai, the UAE Derby. That's also at a longer distance. But so people get that data point and they love to see that, because one of the big question marks is, can they go 1.25 miles of the Kentucky Derby? That's the closest data point they're going to have to it, right? So they'll love to see that. They'll love to see Steve Asmussen as the trainer. Like I said, a very, the winningest trainer of all time in horse racing. So that's very good things that they're going to like to see. And I think, it's just the flip side of it for me is I like those things as well. I just still don't know just how talented this horse actually is.
I think that's totally fair. So he wins the Louisiana Derby. And let's move on to the runner-up, Chunk of Gold. A pass for you for the Kentucky Derby. Tell me why.
Yeah, kind of the same thing. A horse that I have a lot of respect for. He can run on all different surfaces. He always shows up and runs the same race. He's super consistent. That's all very good things about a horse. But I think kind of the bad news with Chunk of Gold, he always, not always, but since he's gone onto the Kentucky Derby trail, he hasn't really threatened to win. He'll run second, but it's not really a threat to the winner. And so if I didn't like the winner, Tiz-tastic, and the Chunk of Gold kind of does the same kind of thing Tiz-tastic does, it's hard for me to support him. Now, I think the good news is Chunk of Gold will be a bigger price than Tiz-tastic. So, and he is very consistent. So, if you wanted to play him underneath in a try or super, I wouldn't call you crazy for it. But he's not really for me. I just don't think he's good enough to hit the board in the Derby. But I do think, look, he's a consistent horse. I like him. If we were talking about, or maybe a race after the Kentucky Derby where he's a little bit more reasonably spotted, I would be on him. But for the Derby itself, he still just hasn't shown me enough.
He's interesting as well, Aaron, because everyone focuses on Cole Battle, who we're going to be talking a lot about today as the fairy tale horse of this Kentucky Derby trail. And Chunk of Gold kind of feels the same to me too, right? He's not this fashionable sire line. He's not the, fashionable breeding. Forgive me, I'm stumbling there with that. But here he is, and he's hitting the board in 2 preps and getting into the Derby. So very cool horse to follow, but I understand the passing on him. Let's talk about the other horse who won this weekend, though. Final Gambit, a pass for you for the Kentucky Derby. Tell us why.
Yeah, just another one. I hate to have 3 passes this week, but I just kind of feel like that's the right move here with Final Gambit. Close up nicely to win the Jeff Ruby Stakes. Of course, that is over a synthetic surface. But basically what happened in this one, the pace absolutely fell apart, and the closers were doing the best running down the stretch. Final Gambit was one of them. He reminds me of Chunk of Gold a little bit when I say I kind of like Final Gambit. I don't like him for the Kentucky Derby. That's kind of my deal with him, right? I could see him going on to be a good horse. And so when you're watching the show, if he wins 2 months from now, that's not what I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about just for the Kentucky Derby. He's just not quite for me yet. I just was not overly impressed. Nice win, nice horse, getting better. I'm not sure the Kentucky Derby is going to be where we see him shine.
So you have Tistastic who won, and you have Final Gambit who won. If you had to put one of those in your superfecta ticket, right? Because you're not betting either of them according to this.
Yeah.
Is there one that you're leaning towards more? Because, Final Gambit did run really well. Yes, it was on synthetic, but, if you had to at this minute, you would edge Tistastic. Where would you go there? I guess that's the question.
I'm going to edge Tistastic. I just think with Steve Asmussen on his side, that's a big time help. Of course, Final Gambit does have Brad Cox. That's not bad either. But, he won on the dirt. He won on that longer distance. He did everything kind of right as far as how he ran, and he was kind of able to kind of weave through traffic, which is something you're going to need to do. I think underneath, he still makes the most sense. I wouldn't call you absolutely crazy for playing either one of them, but I think he makes more logical sense to play underneath.
I think that's totally fair. It's so exciting. We're going to see how that plan pans out. It's just what a Derby trail. Every week we've seen crazy stuff. On the other side of it, speaking of crazy, we're going to do swiping with my sister, and the horse I've been wanting Aaron to swipe on to see how my sister swipes the most. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay tuned. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It's time for another game of Swiping with My Sister. Okay, for those of you new to this segment, my sister is a champion equestrian rider. She's been sitting on horses since she was 11 months old. She doesn't pay an iota of attention to horse racing, but she has studied horses her entire life. Look, I showed my sister 4 Kentucky Derby hopefuls, and I showed her pictures of them. And just like online dating, you know how this goes. She's swiping left or right based on what she sees, okay? If she swipes left, the horse has left her unimpressed. If she swipes right, the horse has the right stuff in her opinion to be a Derby winner. She has tons of great insight, and we have 4 exciting horses for you this week, all running in the Derby prep this weekend. Aaron's going to guess how she swiped, and let's start off with a horse that's on everyone's mind, Cornucopian.
Oh,
Aaron. My sister saw this horse before he was running. These pictures, because I kept hearing about Cornucopian. These are from 5 weeks ago. Cornucopian working out. Did my sister swipe left or right on Cornucopian for the Kentucky Derby based on what she saw?
Oh boy. Oh boy. We got to go right. That was a great picture. I feel like we got to go right. I don't know a lot about horses and their conformations, but I've got to think Cornucopian is a swipe right.
Let's see.
I'm writing a bad check for him as we speak. I love him. Beautiful. He's beautiful. I love him. He is so spectacular looking. He's so well built. It's actually unbelievable. I love his little blaze. And man, I can't tell you based off of a horse who's, never run what he's going to do, but based off of this, I would certainly love to see him win a race and then enter him in the Derby. I'm going to swipe right. I mean, I like him.
Once again, my sister just ahead of the curve with certain things here. It's so impressive. Yes, when I showed my sister, and I've showed her guys behind the scenes, it's like a build your own adventure. I have to show her so many horses in case they show up that week.
Yeah.
This was the single biggest reaction. I cut that clip from it. She went on and on and on. Now, Aaron, we both know looks aren't everything in racing, right? Like, in fact, that's what's kind of fun about this game, right? Like, sometimes an ugly duckling, they run like a swan, or vice versa. For example, Sunday Silence wasn't the most gorgeous looking horse. Seattle Slew sold for $17,500 because he obviously wasn't this Adonis. But sometimes they do run to their looks. So far, Cornucopian has, and that's a big endorsement, isn't it, Aaron?
That's wild. Yeah, that was a great reaction. I was very curious. I'm sure a lot of people tuning in will find that very interesting. And I love that it was a picture of a workout like before it ever started. Boy, where was this a few weeks ago, Ryan? We could have cashed a big ticket. He was like the heavy favorite, so we couldn't have cashed that big of a ticket. But yeah, that's amazing. He's going to run the RXL Derby. We're going to talk about him a little bit. What a setup for the rest of the show today. That's great.
Yeah, we'll get into him more later. Let's go to our next horse, Disruptor. Aaron, did my sister swipe left or right on Disruptor for the Derby based on what she saw?
Very popular horse. A lot of people are talking about this horse. Of course, runs in the Florida Derby. I'm going to go right on Disruptor.
Let's take a look.
Okay. What a beautiful horse. For those of you at home, this is what breeding at its finest looks like. This is a spectacularly bred horse. It is beautiful. The back end, the front end, its face, its legs, its socks. This is like chef's kiss of a horse. Like, this is the horse that I would be like, absolutely. I think he's a little immature. I think he hasn't come into his own yet, just based off of this picture. He's really, really nice. I'm going to swipe left for him to win the Derby because I don't think he's going to get there in time. But I think post Derby, I think that this horse will win a lot of races and do very, very well. I think it unfortunately just looks like a late bloomer. So left for the Derby.
She's incredible. She's absolutely incredible because that's exactly what's going on with that horse. She just broke it down. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's amazing when people are around horses long enough, you just get a sense of where they are mature wise. But speaking of other horses that need to mature possibly, just as far as we've only seen them a little bit. So let's talk about Tappan Street. Aaron, did my sister swipe left or right on Tappan Street for the Derby based on looks?
Gosh, that's a pretty horse again. I'm going to go right once again. That is a really beautiful horse.
Okay, let's take a look.
Okay. Again, this is like a double-edged sword because I do think that he'll hit the board. But if we're saying just to win, I would swipe left. Nice horse, pretty, not overly big stride. I absolutely can tell you right now this horse isn't winning the Derby. But as far as being on the board, I would say it's very possible that he hits the board. So left and right, it's kind of a tough one. Like if we're talking just to win or whatever, then I would swipe left.
Interesting. And I think you saw it that way too, right? Good looking, but maybe just not. So I get she was torn there too, Aaron. So you guys are synced up on that.
Yeah, no, I think both of them, even though I said right and she swiped left, she made points like as a horse in general, she would swipe right, just maybe not to win the Kentucky Derby. Yeah,
exactly. And I think a lot of handicappers might feel that way towards Derby Day based on what we see. We'll get into more on him later on. Let's go with our last horse of the day, Neoequos. Aaron, did my sister swipe left or right based on looks for the Derby?
I'm going to go left on this one. He's not the best bred horse. He's a good little horse. He's a tough or hard trier, I should say, but I'm going to go left on this one.
Okay, let's take a look.
Left. I don't like the way this horse is built whatsoever. I think it's got a funky stride. It's kind of sore on the back end. I mean, just based off of this photo, I don't know. I'm not seeing it run, but just it's kind of holding its butt in a weird position, which is possible. I mean, these horses run a lot and it's hard because they can't medicate them. You know what I mean? Because then they get drug tested. I don't like this horse. I don't think he's going to make the board. I think that in, smaller like prep races, he could be, hit the board, but this horse is not, in my opinion, going to do anything spectacular. So left for me.
Okay.
Seems fair assessment, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think what I said was kind of what she said in some ways of like, look, he's probably outdoing what he should have done as far as looks, breeding, stuff like that. So yeah, I feel like this was like a spot on segment. I loved it this week and I love it every week. This may have been the best one yet, Ryan.
I agree, Aaron. And so look, she was saying he could win a prep. We're going to talk about some of these horses in their preps later on. And, although she said a lesser prep, so it'll be interesting to see how he does in the Florida Derby. You guys aren't going to want to miss it. On the other side of this break, we're going to come back and talk all things Derby in our Kentucky Derby update. See you there. Hello, everybody, and we're back with our Kentucky Derby update. It's time to take a look at our Kentucky Derby top 10 as Aaron and I see it. As you guys will notice, there has been one change. John Hancock's out, which makes sense. Owen Almighty is our 9. He's running in the Derby. That makes sense there. Here's the deal, guys. All of our horses in the top 10 are scheduled to run in the next the next few prep races across the board here. So it's pretty exciting. You're not going to want to miss the next few weeks of shows. We have questions on all these horses. We're going to get tons of answers. So in the meantime, I'm going to ask Aaron about the 3 biggest questions fans are asking about the Derby instead of talking about a list that's just going to move itself and we can talk as it goes. Aaron, there's Derby Trail questions out there. People are wanting to know things. So why don't we talk about the first one being Cornucopian? Cornucopian. People want to know, is this a Triple Crown level horse?
Well, people are unhinged right now, one way or the other. When it comes to Cornucopian, you look through the YouTube comments, people either hate him or they love him, and then you're stupid if you like him, or you're dumb if you don't like him. So yeah, it's been a polarizing horse. Look, no for the Triple Crown. I'll just say no right away. I think he has a talent level that is extremely high. I don't know if that talent level means he's going to win a race like the Kentucky Derby. I don't know if that talent level means he wants to go 1.25 miles, 1.125 miles, or maybe he's more of a horse that wants to go a mile. What I will tell you is Cornucopian, from a pure talent standpoint, forget about distance, experience, anything like that. From a pure talent standpoint, I believe he is Bob Baffert's best horse. But again, that does not mean I'm saying he is a Kentucky Derby winner. I'm not even saying yet that he's an Arkansas Derby winner. Stay tuned. You'll find out what I think there. What I'm saying is he is extremely talented, but is he going to win the Triple Crown? As I sit here today after seeing him race one time, the answer is absolutely not. However, does he have a talent level that is as high, or the potential, I should say, to be as high as a horse that can win major races? Maybe not a Triple Crown, but major stakes races like that. Yes, he absolutely has that level of talent. We're just going to have to find out as we watch him this week and onward. Where is it going to be best for him? Is he going to be a long distance horse? Will a mile kind of be where he fits? That's the big question mark with him, but the talent is not a question mark.
I think this week is one of the most exciting weeks we've seen because of him particularly. I mean, guys, if you're new to racing, to me, I'm going to give a horrible kind of comparison. It would be like you're watching a kid in high school and he wins a game, blows out a game, and they go, you know what? Send him to the NFL Combine. Let's just throw him in a game in the NFL. That is what he's attempting to do. That is the jump up. And for Bob Baffert, who's had 2 Triple Crown winners, everyone's just essentially tuning in to see, will we see absolute greatness? Because that's what it would be to step up and win a prep. And yes, it has happened once with a Bob Baffert horse when it was passed off to Tim Yaktini a year he couldn't race Taba. So there has been stuff there. But while we're on the subject of this, we're going to find out the answer there. There's questions regarding another Bob Baffert horse who's all over the news and a big part of this trail, Barnes. Aaron, where there is smoke, there is fire generally in horse racing or in life. How concerned are you about what you are hearing about Barnes?
Yeah, so if you haven't heard the news about Barnes, he was supposed to run in the Arkansas Derby, or at least he was scheduled at one time to run there. The workout reports from Santa Anita are not great on Barnes right now. There's been a lot of talk that he's just not doing well at all. He's off a little bit. Nothing like he's not injured, or anything like that. He continues to work out, but he's getting outworked by Cornucopian, by Rodriguez, a horse that really hasn't done a whole lot, and a horse that Barnes dominated the last time they faced. Rodriguez has been outworking him. So they don't really know what they're going to do with him yet. We haven't heard. Again, he was, likely penciled in for the Arkansas Derby. He's not there. Cornucopian is there. So that just kind of tells you Baffert sent the one he thought was working the best in Cornucopian and not Barnes. So yeah, I don't really know. So the key with him is let's see if he enters that. We have, we have 4 preps next week, but 3 of them in the United States. Let's see if he enters any of those. We have one the next week, second weekend in April, the Lexington. Let's see if he enters any of those. We're going to wait and see. It's not a great sign right now. Things change in horse racing rapidly is what I will tell you, though. So if, say, he goes out on Friday or Saturday of this week and has an incredible workout, we'll probably see him next weekend in the Santa Anita Derby or the Bluegrass or the Wood Memorial, something like that. But right now, the signs are not great on Barnes.
In case you guys don't know what's been going on as well, just a quick, explanation. 2 weeks ago, it appeared he worked out with Cornucopian, and Cornucopian got the best of him in a workout. And last week, Rodriguez and him worked out, and Rodriguez got the best of him. So just stay tuned, guys. And Baffert has enough horses where he definitely doesn't need to send Barnes to the Derby if he doesn't feel like he has a shot this year. So it's just all very fascinating. And when we talk about fascinating horses, our next horse, Caldera, a horse that people own parts of and everyone's excited about him. Fans want to know, do you give this horse another chance after what you saw in his last prep race where he didn't even hit the board?
Oh, you absolutely have to give Caldera another chance. And I get like the My Racehorse people are probably still on board, or maybe they're a little nervous at this point, and they should be a little bit. But yeah, you give him another chance. He stumbled out of the gate pretty badly, and that stumble certainly did not help him. He's still a horse that is trying to learn exactly what to do, and sometimes when a horse stumbles like that, it's like, oh my gosh, he's in another world right now. Like, what just happened? Where am I? That's never happened to me before. What am I supposed to do? And I think that may have been a little bit of it. Also, guys, Dwayne Lucas is a master. He is one of the greatest trainers, if not the greatest trainer of all time. He'll figure it out. If this horse has something in him and something to give, he'll figure it out. He figured it out with Seize the Gray. Think about Seize the Gray and how he looked at times last year. It's like, I don't know, maybe he's kind of done. And then he would win the Preakness and the Pat Day and the Pennsylvania Derby. So you got to be patient with horses. One race does not define a career. So just stick with him. It was very disappointing, but there'll be another day and he'll run better.
I'm with you, Aaron. We got to stay tuned on Caldera. We got to stay tuned on Barnes, Cornucopian, and we got to stay tuned on our picks for the Florida Derby. On the other side of this break, we're going to try to help you guys cash. You're not going to want to miss it. Hot takes all around. See you there. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Saturday, race 14 at Gulfstream Park is the Florida Derby. The winner of this race will earn 100 Kentucky Derby qualifying points. The runner-up will earn 50. Multiple horses could earn their spot into the Kentucky Derby based on what happens here. This is a very, very fun race, Aaron. There's a lot of ways to go. I think it's very intriguing, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. It's an exciting race. All these races towards the end are exciting. And unlike last week, we've got established horses this week to talk about. We had a lot of unknowns last week. This week, we've got a lot of knowns. And then let's see if anybody can jump up and beat the ones that we kind of know are already really good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, okay, we've been talking about some of these horses earlier in the show. So you've got Disruptor, you've got Tappan Street. I mean, we've got a Bob Baffert horse here in Matticat Road, Sovereignty. I think this race, obviously, if you're going to start with something, you start with Sovereignty, right, Aaron? This is Bill Mott's horse. Last time out, Mott didn't even think he could necessarily win the race. He wasn't sure if he could, and he's just such a good horse. He got the job done, maybe not 100% cranked up. Here, if there's anything to maybe knock, and it's not really a full knock, guys, Junior Alvarado, the regular jockey for this horse, I think he has, if I read this correctly, Aaron, a shoulder injury, so he will not be getting on this horse. They're getting a new rider. Tell him who it is.
Yeah, so Manny Franco will be aboard here, and it's a good enough replacement for sure. Franco's a good rider. He's having another decent season, or he will once he gets up to New York and dominates up there like he always does. So, look, you never want to lose a rider, especially one that knows the horse. But I think Manny Franco will do a good job. I'm not overly concerned about that. Feel bad for Junior Alvarado. Good guy for sure. It sounds like the article I read, 3 weeks for him. So maybe he gets back in time for the Derby. I mean, he would be if it's only 3 weeks and he can ride back. We'll see what happens there. But anyway, Manny's going to be all right. But yeah, talk about Sovereignty, who he is, what he's all about. Seconds before the Fountain of Youth, Bill Mott, the trainer, a great trainer, by the way, was on the air saying, I love Sovereignty, but this is probably not the race for him. We don't have him fully cranked. He was coming off of a pretty decent layoff. Just dominated the race. I mean, he won by a narrow margin, but it was one of those deals. He comes from out of it, and you could tell about, at least halfway up the stretch, it's like, yeah, he's going to catch him. He's running 2-1 to these horses. So, and he beat River Thames, a horse that I think is very good, and really shouldn't have been caught at that distance, and Sovereignty was able to catch him. So, but now you fast forward to today, or Saturday, I should say. If Bill Mott thinks he's going to be better at this race, and I think the distance as he stretches out to 1 1/8 is going to be better for him. I mean, how do you beat him in this spot? I couldn't go against him. He looks very, very good to me. You always worry with his running style. He does come from dead last or close to last. Maybe he'll get some trouble this side or the other, but I see a lot of speed in this race. I think it sets up really well for him. I think he progresses and runs better in this spot than he did in his last race. I think he's awfully, awfully tough to beat in this spot.
He is awfully tough to beat. That's why we're starting with him, right? He's the one you have to beat if you're going to win here, clearly. But I looked at the time form numbers. He's not even the top rated time form number. It's by a point. Neoequos is the number one. When you get past them, these other few horses that really stand out to me, Disruptor, Madikit Road, Tappan Street, they're not that far off. Some of them have the exact same time form number. Do any of those horses have a case for you to beat Sovereignty? Like,
Yes.
what would you do?
Yes, they do. Now, so my big thing here is, okay, you've got Sovereignty. He likes to come from way out of it. Maybe there's traffic trouble, or maybe there's a lack of pace. Now, what I just said, though, I think there will be a lot of pace because most of the horses you just mentioned, they like to run fast early. So they might be all out there together. But let's say they're not. I think a horse like Madikit Road is interesting. And I think that's the one that's got the best chance to beat him. He was second last time out in the Rebel Stakes, beaten by Coal Battle. That day, he set a wicked fast pace and was still able to hold on for second. Now, here's the deal. This is a horse that at times is like fourth or fifth up the backside. He's not even close to the pace. Matter of fact, I picked him to win the Rebel Stakes because I thought he would sit fourth or fifth behind a fast pace, not set the pace. But what it tells you is he's a versatile horse. You can kind of place him wherever. If the pace is not very hot, he can go to the lead. I'm imagining if they're going fast early, he'll kind of just tuck behind him and be patient. He's going to get first run, which meaning he's going to be, several lengths ahead of Sovereignty as they turn for home. If he can kind of get away from him and kind of get separation from him and make it more difficult for Sovereignty to kind of close up and beat him, that's going to be a big advantage for him. So I think a Madikit Road, I think Disruptor is another horse for Todd Pletcher that your sister loved. I think he's another one. He could be that kind of horse like Madikit Road that could get, separation early and make it tougher for him. So those are kind of the two horses that I think have a shot here to upset Sovereignty. But again, at the end of the day, it's probably most likely that Sovereignty does run them down.
It was interesting. You mentioned Disruptor. Irad Ortiz last time out was Cornucopian's jockey. He comes out here, he's on Disruptor, and there's so many factors, right? Maybe he was already committed here or this, but I feel like he would move heaven and earth if he could, if this was the second coming of Justify. You beg, you plead, you give your, I understand the circumstances. Does any of that get you more excited for Disruptor is the reason I ask, Aaron?
It does get you more excited. He's basically there because a horse named White Abario is going to run on that card as well, on the undercard of the Florida Derby. And White Abario won the Pegasus World Cup last time out. I kind of heard through the grapevine that Irad was kind of committed to ride White Abario before he knew Cornucopian was going to Arkansas. So that's part of it as well. But having Irad Ortiz, that's pretty good, right? So that's a big thing for Disruptor. He did, stay to ride White Abario, but being on Disruptor, that's very good. And again, he's got a lot of talent. Your sister's right. He's kind of against the 8-ball a little bit as far as timing, but he's got a shot in this race, no doubt.
One last horse I'm going to throw out there, Tappan Street. You get Luis Saez, you get Brad Cox. Saez stays on. He's been this horse's regular jockey. Interesting horse. Ran a really good race last out. I'm aware Burnham Square beat him, and Burnham Square didn't come back that impressively. But, I would also look here, guys. What do you think, Aaron? Is he a pass for you or anything for him?
He's a pass for me because of what Burnham Square did. But I do think he can get better off of that race and run better here in this spot. But he is a pass for me in this one.
Who's your pick in the end of the day?
End of the day, I went Sovereignty. I'm going to go Sovereignty in an exacta with, I also put Madikit Road underneath and Disruptor. So Sovereignty on top, Madikit Road, Disruptor underneath in second.
I went Sovereignty too, but hopefully we gave you guys a few other ways in case you're looking to play it different. On the other side of this break, we have the race of the weekend, the Arkansas Derby. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay tuned. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Saturday, race 13 at Oaklawn Park is the Arkansas Derby. The winner of this race also will earn 100 points for the Kentucky Derby. The runner-up will earn 50. Multiple horses could get in. It's such an exciting race here, Aaron. Cornucopian trying to go for greatness. We set that up earlier in the show. You've got Coal Battle, the Cinderella horse of the Derby Trail. There is so many ways to go here as well. What are your thoughts initially on this race?
Well, I think Cornucopian being here added a ton of intrigue to the race because he is the great unknown coming into it, because the other horses here at Oaklawn, we've got a pretty good idea of who they are. Cole Battle's won 3 straight Kentucky Derby prep races. He has just been Mr. Consistency. Analytically speaking, when I'm talking about speed figures or final times, it hasn't been over the top, but he just keeps winning, and he's winning easy. So, he's kind of that established horse that's really good. Speed King won a prep race here at Oaklawn Park. You got him coming back. I mean, you've got kind of the locals that we know, and we kind of know who they are. And then you've got, the giant elephant in the room, so to speak, Ryan, with Cornucopian shipping in for Bob Baffert, who did come to Oaklawn Park on Rebel Day. Didn't run in the Rebel, but got a buyer speed figure 10 points higher than the Rebel winner when he broke his maiden going 6 furlongs in the fastest 6 furlong time for 3-year-olds in the history of Oaklawn Park. It happened in the Rebel Stakes, or on Rebel Stakes Day with Cornucopian.
I mean, that's just so exciting. So look, guys, if you're into racing, you already know this race, the storyline of this race is between the two we've set up here, right? Cole Battle, Cornucopian. Cole Battle's the fairy tale horse. Cornucopian's the up and coming. Could he be a monster? Here's the thing, Aaron. I'm just going to lay out something that I could actually see as a possibility. We're not going to get into picks. I'm just going to lay out a crazy thing when I was looking at this. Cole Battle's been winning race after race on the dirt since he got there. But, if we're honest with ourselves here, as fans, we're rooting for this story. We're rooting for this horse. We love him. He's now going to get the ultimate test, right? Like his pedigree, we had a pedigree expert on last week, and every time they outrun their pedigree, eventually we don't know where the wall is. Well, here he gets more length. There's a case to be made that, like, he's done as good as he could, and here he hits that wall. As well as, there's a few horses here, like Speed King last time, it appeared to me, they either tried to rate or he had some trouble. He didn't get to where he wanted to be. So the race kind of fell apart, and Cole Battle did nothing wrong. Whereas there was a questionable ride on Matticat Road when they faced each other last time, and Cole Battle took advantage of it. I'm not knocking him. Guys, I love this horse. I want to lay out a situation for Aaron. So you have this questionable thing with Cole Battle, Cornucopian stepping up, trying to do something great. And you know what, guys? That's a big ask. I don't care how good you are. It's a big ask. Coming from a maiden to a Kentucky Derby prep, he can falter. He might not like the distance. Well, then this race is wide open, Aaron. And there is a case, am I crazy with this, that you can just look elsewhere as well? Like, is my case crazy where, like, Sandman, who's been begging for distance, he suddenly gets his shot there? These horses aren't liking the distance. He's not going to have trouble with that. I mean, what are your thoughts on that scenario? Let's break down the other way to go. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, if Cornucopian shows up and let's say he gets to like the mile marker, and he just gets tired, whether it's inexperience, whether it's a lot of pace, whether he doesn't really want to go a mile and eighth, maybe he just wants to go a mile, whatever. Let's say he starts to back up. And then what you're saying, let's say Cole Battle has kind of outdone what he really should have done. And maybe the reality kind of hits him a little bit, which would be sad, but I think it's possible what you're laying out. Well, somebody has to win now, right? Because on paper, it looks like it's Cole Battle versus Cornucopian. You're going to take the established horse, the horse can win Kentucky Derby prep races, or you're going to take the up-and-comer that looks like a monster, but there's a lot of unknowns. That's his decision, right? But then if you go back at what you're saying, who's going to win? Is it Sandman, who has been just goofy? That's the best way to put him. Sandman has a lot of talent, but he can't mentally get it all together. Is it Speed King? Does he kind of bounce back and run a better race? They just let him go to the front. So I see what you're saying. We could see a Publisher, another one that people have liked. He's still a maiden, but people still bet him in these races for some reason. I mean, we could see a weird finish in this race. And people comment on my videos. Publisher, look out. It's like, look out for what? But anyway, but we could see a weird finish because, yeah, they're what Ryan, not you, Ryan, but the pedigree Ryan guy laid out on Cole Battle is accurate. When you kind of look at it, he's already kind of outran what he's supposed to do. When does that bubble it may never burst or could burst here. And then you got the Cornucopian. He's a huge hit or a huge miss. It gets wild. And I'm kind of circling around I have no clue who's going to win if the 8 or 9 doesn't, because the rest of these horses are pretty inconsistent and just kind of haven't put it all together mentally.
So, guys, there's the case there. We laid out the other horses I think we're both on. If that does fall apart, Sandman, Speed King, and then Publisher, right? Because he seems like past that, these numbers are just so wild out there that I wouldn't want a part of it. Okay. Before I ask your pick, if you had to pick from those 3 horses, who would you go with? If you had to pick Publisher, Sandman, Speed King?
I just feel like if Cornucopian can get the distance of a mile and an eighth, I don't think the inexperience is going to matter. So I just can't get past. I didn't even really, look at anybody. It's just, I think he's the one. So to me, if he breaks well and he gets out to the lead, I don't really think any of the other horses will even play a factor in the race.
I really feel that too, Aaron, because even me just trying to like go shop around, I didn't love 3-1 on Sandman. And I think he's that
No.
one for me that I feel like the distance won't be a problem. I can't go 3-1 on this horse.
No.
Because if I'm going to have to pick someone else, if I'm going against Cornucopian, I'm going to pick Coal Battle. I really like this. I'd rather lose my money with the horse that I like, with the story I like, whereas if I'm 3-1 on Sandman and he beats me again, I'm going to feel like, well, I couldn't get the price I wanted. That's the morning line odds, right?
I guess, to kind of answer the question that you wanted answered and I just went by it. Sorry. I guess I would want to take a shot, maybe like a best friend rocket for the coach that just he's running okay. And maybe he runs a huge race. Like I would, if I'm not betting on Coal Battle and I'm not betting on Cornucopian, I'm with you. I do not want Sandman at a short price. He can win. I'm not betting that horse at a short price. I would go price hunting. I would look for 20-1 type of horse.
100%. My money is going to be on Cornucopian as well. My heart's going to be on Coal Battle. I wish him well. This is a fascinating race. You're not going to want to miss it. On the other side of this break, you are not going to want to miss this as well. We're going to the mailbag for an epic mailbag session. We'll see you on the other side of this break. Hello, guys, and welcome back. It's time to go to the mailbag. Aaron, we have some questions from the fans. Our first question is from Luke. He asked, what happened to Sierra Leone? What's your take on what we saw this weekend?
He probably just needed a race, honestly. I wouldn't be too concerned about him. Also, a bunch of horses scratched and there was no speed in the race. And as we know, a closer needs speed, needs to be sharp, needs to have a good trip. And there was just no speed in the race. I would draw a line through it. If he looks bad next time out, then I'd be worried. But this time, I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Seems fair to me. The next question we had was from Terry. He asks, what has been your favorite moment of the Kentucky Derby Trail up to this point?
Well, hopefully we get a better one. But as of right now, and not that this is a bad one, it's a very good one, but right now it's Journalism winning the San Felipe. I thought just how great he looked in the stretch, how he dominated Barnes, and just one going away. I thought that was the defining moment of the Kentucky Derby Trail. You could also say Sovereignty, I think, winning the Fountain of Youth. But, we got 2 big weeks. So hopefully we have a better one. Maybe it's Journalism topping what he did in the San Felipe. Maybe it's Sovereignty. Maybe it's Cornucopian, Coal Battle, whoever. But right now, I would say Journalism winning the San Felipe.
Very interesting. There's been a few things, too. I think Coal Battle's fairy tale stuff. And I think Cornucopian daring to be great, we're going to see this weekend. So stay tuned. These are things that could top it, right? This Arkansas Derby could produce our favorite moment coming up. I'm with you, though. Journalism for me. This next one, it's not a question as much as we need to give a shout out to someone who wrote something incredible about us, Aaron. Aaron, a National Horse Racing Hall of Famer, Steve Haskin, wrote about our show this week, calling it one of the best racing podcasts on YouTube. Guys, Steve Haskin is one of my heroes. I want to thank him for his kind words. When I first got into horse racing, he was someone I looked up to, and I devoted every second of my time to reading every column I could get my hands on. And Steve, if you're listening, I still do that, which is how I saw what you wrote about me. He writes a column, guys, for Secretariat.com. Every week, my fantasy horse racing partner, legendary John White, and we read his column. I mean, we have that much respect for Steve Haskin. He is, someone I look up to and I respect so much. And I want to recommend his column to everyone. Please go check it out at Secretariat.com. I know, Aaron, you have a ton of respect for him too, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm just like you. I read Steve's column. I believe it used to be in Blood Horse, right? Before he retired, Blood Horse. And it would come out, midweek, and he'd rank his top Kentucky Derby horses. And now, like I said, it's on Secretariat.com if you want to still check him out there, which I do as well. And the thing I always loved about him, the in-depth kind of research he would do on each horse. And, just really good at explaining, okay, here's how I have them ranked and here's why. And yeah, I mean, it's a staple of the horse racing industry. And I was glad that he stayed on and was at Secretariat.com even after he retired. Kind of like John White is kind of sort of on racingdudes.com at times as well, which shows you how much both those guys love the game. They may be retired, but hey, I still want to do a few things here because I do love horse racing. So yeah, we very, very much appreciate the shout out.
And guys, here's where it comes in for more fun. Haskin mentions loving swiping with my sister. So in honor of you, Steve, for all of our fans as well, you can thank Steve for this one if you love this segment. We're going to play a bonus swipe. So as the Derby Trail progresses, these horses really start to grow and mature. So look, they hit growth spurts, and I wanted to see how my sister felt about a horse we'd already swiped on. So last time I saw her, I asked her how she felt about Coal Battle, a horse she swiped on way back. Aaron, what does my sister think about Coal Battle now? Did she swipe left or right on him based on the last pictures she was seeing?
I'm going to go left on Coal Battle. And I will be honest, I cannot remember what she said the first time, but I'm going to go left on Coal Battle.
Let's see if you're right.
Okay, I think before I probably said he was too small, but every time I see him, I see him in the lead, and I'm kind of having a hard time, looking at him and not giving him the benefit of the doubt. He's got a lot of heart for a little horse, and as much as I would like to say that swipe left because that's the safe option, I'm going to swipe right on this one. I really want to see this one win. I want to see this one go the distance. I think he has the heart to do it. I don't think he's got the bloodlines to do it. I think if he does it, it's going to be the underdog of the century. But this horse, as it's gone on, it's becoming increasingly harder for me to say that he can't do it. I think he's a Kentucky Derby hopeful. I do. So I'd swipe right.
Man, how do you feel about that, Aaron?
She's so good about, without knowing, like kind of telling the story that is actually unfolding to us that know about racing and follow racing. Because I feel like everybody was like, well, at least I'll speak for myself. And I don't want to speak for everybody, but I do think some people feel the same. Like when he won the Remington Park Springboard Mile, which is one of my favorite races, I was like, oh, that's so cool. Wish he hadn't beat Speed King, who I bet, but hey, okay, that's still really cool. It's a good story. Then he won at Oaklawn the first time in the Smarty Jones. And I'm like, okay, maybe he's something. I still doubted him in the Rebel, but after the Rebel, I was kind of like your sister and just like, look, he keeps beating me and he's doing it pretty easy. So I think I'm right there with her. I would love to see him win the Kentucky Derby. I think it'd be amazing. It kind of be even the Arkansas Derby. Think about the story there, Ryan, where it's like he goes and he wins the Arkansas Derby and he beats this another Bob Baffert horse who everybody's going crazy on. And here's a little Coal Battle and goes and beats him, So I loved what she said. That was great.
Me too. And yeah, best of luck to Coal Battle. We're obviously fans. We get into the sport because we love horses and stories like that. There's tons of reasons, but for me, that's one of the things I love. So good luck to Coal Battle. We had one last question here. Our fan Aaron asks, what is your sister's number? Aaron? I see what's going on here. Guys, thank you so much for your time this week. That's our show. We both are going to be traveling to the Arkansas Derby. If you want to ask for my sister's number or meet us, you can meet us up there in person. It's going to be a blast. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in, for the kind words, for the comments, for the shout outs. We really appreciate how this show has been doing and how much, guys, you've been enjoying it. We love racing, and I think you guys we're in the middle of a fun trail. So good luck to everyone betting this weekend. I'm Ryan Stillman. He's Aaron Halterman, signing off. Thanks for talking track with us.